about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So many of my listeners work for the federal government. And God bless you guys for doing that. And you, some of you are being offered another chance at resignation. And this happens also in private industry. So whatever I'm going to talk about, whether you're a federal worker or non-federal employee, work in private enterprise, this will hold true. And the concept of you being offered to resign, not given an offer, a blanket offer, generic offer. They make the offer, usually in private industry, very, very sweet, where there's a severance. I mean, they want to make it enticing for you to leave. The federal offers, some people might get $25,000. Some, it's just, we're going to keep you on the payroll till September. Well, now that we're almost in mid-April, so September is what, 5 months away? So 5 months free salary and you resign. Or you stay on and take your chances. And so there are many people out there going, what do I do? So when this fork in the road email came out for federal workers early in January, that had to do with usually for people who are working remote. So if you were working remote, working at home, federal government's like, we're not paying for all these buildings. We're not, trying. If you have a job and you're getting a paycheck and you're getting all these benefits, you're coming to work and you got to work in the office. If you don't want to, that's fine. That's fine. And you are going to be getting then 8 months of free salary. You don't even have to show up, but you resign. And at the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, you will no longer be an employee of the government. It was actually a really good deal. And people were like, well, gosh, should I take it? Or do I want to keep my job? What's the job market going to be like? But, many people who were like, I do not want to work on site. I don't want to have to work 40 plus hours a week. I don't want the risk of being laid off. I'm going to take the deal. And thousands of people, tens of thousands of people took the deal. Many people didn't take the deal because they were already working on site. Like, I want to work on site. I love coming to work. I love my job. I don't want to leave. Well, then some of those individuals ended up getting fired anyway. That scared people. So then people got laid off, especially if they were probationary, and but here I was faithful, I was loyal, I was working on site, I wasn't working remote. Are you telling me I could have gotten that deal? So now workers get another chance at taking that deal. Mind you, almost 3 months have passed, but still free full salary till September, or some people will get $25,000. And so, many of you are like, well, do I take the deal? Do I not? So if I was working for the federal government, I used to work for the federal government. If I really saw the writing on the wall and I thought I was going to be eliminated anyway, if I thought that with Doge or with Trump trying to reduce the overblown size of the government, it is going to affect my department. Yeah, if I thought I was going to be out anyway, yeah. But if I didn't have another job, or if I was looking at the climate out there with other jobs and going, I might not be able to get another job, I would hold tight. I'd want to still work because, one, I love my job. I love what I'm doing. I'd like to still keep it. And I don't want to be unemployed. Now, in the private industry, this happens all the flipping time. Guys, we're going to do layoffs. Layoffs are going to happen at the end of the year, or in the summer. So for those of you who are already considering retiring, we're going to give you a severance package. And so people who are already considering retiring and starting to wind down, it's a great process of elimination. The retiree is happy, the company is happy, the younger employees are happy, and it's something that's always done. Layoffs still do happen, and companies are laying people off. But the idea that if you're going to retire and not look for another job, it's a great deal. Then you go on unemployment or Social Security or whatever. But we have 30-year-olds not knowing what to do, 42-year-olds not knowing what to do. And if you've worked for the government many years and you're like, how do I go and I try to get another job in this job market? I wouldn't take the deal unless you have another job ready to go to, or if you're of retirement age where you don't plan on looking for another job, so it doesn't matter. Because here's the thing, and I'm not hearing everybody. It sounds like there's a couple different deals. One is somebody gets 25 grand. Another is you just get free, unless if that equates to that. I don't know, whichever is higher, or you get free salary all the way till September 30th. But what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario people feel is they will in June get fired, and then they will have lost out on getting 3 or 4 or 5 months of free salary. Well, if that's the worst of it, see, I would take the risk and still try and keep my job. Now, if you are being offered $1 million, well, then, yeah, that's like, owie. Okay, maybe I should have jumped on the $1 million. But if all it is you're going to have a paid job till September, if you quit and you don't have another job, I would be less inclined to quit because I'd rather still be working. And, everybody's fearful. Yeah, but I don't want to lose my job anyway when I could have taken here's the thing. I totally understand why Doge has to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. I get that. I totally understand that Biden and other presidents have expanded the size of the government, and we do need to hone it in. And we do need to, cut the fat, cut the waste. And we, do have a lot of workers. It's, ridiculously big. We have millions of people working for the government. So I get why they have to do that. I just don't like the way it's being done, especially when you have workers who are busting their butts, or some of these probationary workers might be in a new position. I think there's a better way or offer another, if let's say the government wants to grow another industries, offer them a job there. Again, in private industry, it happens. There's layoffs, there's department closures. That's nothing new. It seems like it's kind of happening all at once. So if I were you, look at your other options. Now, because worst case scenario, you do get fired, you get to go on unemployment. But if you have another job, that's one thing. But if you have nothing, I don't know if I would quit yet. 1-877-Doc-Daliah, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the most common thing my husband tells me, the most common thing isn't, I love you. It isn't, you're beautiful. It's, huh? What'd you say? The most common thing out of my husband's mouth is, huh? So what? He doesn't hear me. Or it's selective hearing. And then the most common thing I tell my husband is not love you, is not you're my cupcake tushy, is not you're so handsome and burly. It's, are you flipping kidding me? I just said this how many millions of times? So those are the most common. Yeah, if we ever do a pop quiz, that's the answer. Are you flipping kidding me? You've got to be kidding me. What the flippity? Okay. Because he can't hear me. Now, women joke about this all the time, saying it's a selective hearing. They'll hear a ref's call, right? They'll hear something on the TV easily, but the wife is telling them to do something they don't hear. But one thing I suspected years ago, seeing my grandfather, seeing my father, is I thought men had less hearing than females. They had weaker hearing than women. And the reason why is I would be screwing around in my room or fighting with because we would share a room with my brother, or I'd fight or I'd say something. My mom would be across the apartment, across the yard, across the house, hear me, and then come in to whip me. Because and I'm like, how did she hear that? My mom had super hearing, but I learned at an early age it wasn't just my mom. Because I'd be at a friend's house, would be screwed around. I remember I was 5 years old. We were in California, and I was at my friend's apartment, and her mom made the most delicious lemonade. And I couldn't stop drinking it. It was really probably because it was sugary. And so I had gotten 2 cups, and the mommy said, no more, Dolly. So I'm playing with my friend, and apparently I asked my friend, I still remember this. I go, can you ask your mom for more lemonade? And I hear her mom all across the apartment. She was in the kitchen. No, Dolly, no more lemonade. And I'm like, how did she hear that? So I learned from an early age that women may have heightened hearing, which makes sense because, with the whole, child rearing and, you need to know if your kid is drowning and you have to have that mommy sense. And so I've always thought that. But what have the studies showed? Well, we have a very interesting study that is actually supporting that. And they say that moms may have more sensitive hearing. The study was published in the journal Scientific Reports, and it looked to examine the correlation between multiple factors, gender, age, religion. And Dr. Barolesque at the Center of Biodiversity and Environmental Research in Toulouse, France, led a team of scientists to conduct hearing tests on 448 individuals from 13 global communities in Ecuador, England, Gabon, South Africa, and Uzbekistan. And the results showed that hearing sensitivity was primarily influenced by gender and environment. Now, this has been reported by Fox News. And they also looked at age, left versus right ear. And they measured hearing sensitivity using transient evoked otoacoustic emissions, or TOA, which assesses the cochlea's ability to produce and transmit an acoustic response after sound stimulation. And your cochlea is the organ. It's a cavity, the part of the ear that helps convey the messages and converts the sound waves into electrical impulses to the brain. Because your sound waves come in here, but how does the brain pick it up when the brain needs electrical waves? That's what your cochlea does. And so to calculate hearing sensitivity, a small device played a clicking sound into the ear of test subjects and then recorded the tiny sounds the ear sent back in response. These returning signals were created by cells in the cochlea, providing a reliable indication of how sensitive the ear is to sound. They looked at the signals, they looked at how strong they were, which frequencies the ears responded to, And then they found that women throughout the testing consistently showed a higher sensitivity by an average of 2 decibels across all populations. So what we call mommy hearing is just their basic hearing abilities. Now, they said they were surprised to find that women had 2 decibels more sensitive hearing across all populations. I'm not surprised because I speak at 2 decibels higher. You know, when my husband says, okay, we need to do something, I'm like, hey, did you guys do this? Okay, so I'm already at a couple decibels higher. Although, boy, can my husband go from like 0 to 10 in a heartbeat when as it pertains to decibels. But they did find that women had 2 decibel more sensitivity. They think it could be due to exposures of hormones during the womb. Men and women may have slight structural differences in cochlear anatomy. And so, this is kind of interesting. Now, I don't know if we have any data on right versus left ear, but hearing is something that we don't spend as much time working on and addressing. We need to. So when you go to your family doctor's office, if you still have a family doc, and they examine you, they might ask you about your hearing. But for the most part, they might not be testing it. You might do the eye chart. They might check your blood pressure. They might check your pulse ox, things like that. But are you having full-on hearing tests? And how often are you having them? And sometimes it just never gets brought up until you bring it up. And loss of hearing can accelerate dementia. And hearing loss could be a sign of dementia. So which came first, the dementia or the hearing loss? Well, it depends. And so we've seen people deteriorate if they don't have their hearing, or if they are, and the reason why there's 2 different schools of thought is if you aren't hearing and you're not paying attention, and then you're not like at some point I'll tell my husband, forget it. You know, I'll start talking to him. He's like, what? I'm like, I don't want to repeat myself. Forget it. Okay. Well, then that conversation ends. So then you end up having less conversations. Well, then you're less engaging with them. And here I have the cocktail party effect, where if a bunch of people are talking, I can't hear what they say. And so the problem I have is apparently I say yes, yes, yes to a lot of things. I think Seinfeld had an episode similar to this where he couldn't hear the light talker, so then he wore a puffy shirt. So I say yes a lot. I should learn to say no. Trust me, would have gotten me in a lot less trouble. And so some people say, blah, 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 like, yes, yes. Why am I saying yes? Because I can't hear them. And I don't want to say, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Because then they stop the conversation. Nobody talks to me. And I don't want to be the only one at the party not being spoken to. So when you can't hear, you're then isolated. On the other end, if you are not transmitting the impulses well to the brain because the brain is cognitively not working well, hearing could be a sign of dementia. And so men seem to be afflicted a lot with hearing loss, with dementia. Women can too, but in some certain disorders, men are affected worse. So why aren't we recommending screening at an earlier age? Or why aren't we being more aggressive with it? Well, because insurance doesn't pay for hearing aids. That's changing. Now you can get hearing aids over the counter. But, if we're getting readers and reading glasses, we might need to, have more access to hearing aids. The only issue I have with that is if you are having a hearing issue, we need to know why. Just like if you are starting to lose your eyesight or you're starting to have issues, I don't want you misdiagnosing yourself, going, oh, well, I just need readers because I'm having poor accommodation. I'm just over 40. What if it's glaucoma? What if it's macular degeneration? What if it's a retinopathy? So the reason why I didn't mind there being prescriptions is because you had to see a medical provider and they would rule out something that needed intervention. But now, since insurance isn't paying for it, I'd rather you be able to get the help you need with the promise that you still go in and get an exam. So if any of you getting reading glasses, still make sure you get your eye examined. Any of you getting hearing aids, still make sure you get your hearing examined. It could be wax buildup. It could be a mass. It could be a tumor. It could be diabetes. COVID could even affect hearing. So we want to make sure that we're getting the right diagnosis and we're not sweeping it under the rug. But people blow off their hearing all the time. I do. And, part of the reason is I'm vain. I don't mean to be vain, but to walk around with hearing aids, I don't need hearing aids. In my studio, I'm fine. I have no hearing issue in my studio. Now, does my producer, Daniel, have to amp up The volume for me, I don't know. Which, by the way, that would be a great test. How much does my producer have to do for my feedback versus somebody else? But, when I'm outside around others or in a party, that's a problem. And I might need a hearing aid for that. I could hear perfectly on the road. I could hear a siren. So, get your hearing checked. Don't blow it off. And before you get mad at your husband for not listening to you, oh my God, I've told you 5 million times. What the flip? Just understand his hearing could be biologically weaker. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So if you had a chance now to go to college because you're in between jobs or getting fired or the job market is slowing, should you do it? Can you do it? I'm middle-aged, and I've thought of maybe getting a law degree. Stop laughing. I object. Or identical. How do they do that on Vicas of any? Identical. I would do that. I would want to be a trial lawyer. I would not be doing law to just sit there and read and analyze. I don't like to read that much. So I know. But I have been thinking about doing that. A variety of reasons that I've been thinking about maybe adding to my education. One is I'm kind of this mindset where, why didn't I do it? I love medicine. I love show business. I love law. Why not become a lawyer? The thing is what am I going to do? Am I going to now be a lawyer? I mean, I feel like I should be slowly starting to kind of wind down, but I don't feel that way. I feel like, I just want to do more. So if I did do it, I don't know who's going to accept somebody who's 29, 29, or pretending to be 29 years old. But if you are thinking about going back to school, I think it's a fantastic idea. I wouldn't go to Ivy League. I'm really getting more anti-Ivy League. You heard about this? I think $1 billion in federal funding for Cornell has been frozen. Why are we giving Cornell $1 billion in federal funds? These guys are Ivy League. I mean, they have endowments and money and high tuition. Northwestern University, $790 million. Well, look at what we're giving these Ivy Leagues. So I want to go to Ivy League. But I would also be careful because now everybody and their mother is trying to get an MBA or an online degree. And these online schools, it's expensive. It's thousands upon thousands of dollars. And what does that degree or certificate get you? Now, I went to college when I was younger because I got a scholarship. If not, I was going to go to the military or I was going to wait tables or going to show business. But because UNLV gave me an academic scholarship, I still had to support myself, and I did. I worked multiple part-time jobs, but because I didn't have a family that was very supportive and I didn't want to be with the family, I left as soon as I turned 18 because they wouldn't let me leave sooner. I tried. Because I had an academic scholarship, I went to college. But I wanted to be a doctor. And if I didn't get into medical school, I would have been screwed because I had a major in biology, a minor in chemistry. And meanwhile, I'm like, gosh, when you're 21 years old, you get to make tips. Living in Las Vegas, Nevada, I'm seeing a lot of my friends, make $80,000 a year valeting. Now, this was in the 90s, and I was like, okay, there's some money to be made. And I went through this, if I don't get into medical school and I have a biology degree, I could probably go for my master's and then maybe a PhD and teach biology. But if not, then, I'm going to, probably one of my part-time jobs was marketing. I might just do that. And so, having a degree that you can't really use isn't very valuable. But luckily I got into medical school first try. So I was able to go to medical school, become a doctor. So I was able to utilize the degree. And that degree helped me get into medical school. To have a degree, just to have a degree, that used to work, where HR and employers are like, I'm not even looking at anybody who's not a college grad. Well, now everybody and their mother has graduated college. So how do you stand out? Well, what's making people stand out now are certifications. If you're certified in certain things, now that allows you to be more versatile. So what I would do before entering school is figure out what is it you actually want to do. When I realized I wanted to do radio, I talked to a local DJ, talk show host, who's awesome. He no longer does radio, but I said, do I need to go to broadcasting school? And he said, no. Okay, stop laughing. I know you all think I needed to go to broadcasting school, but can I finish with the story? At the time, he said, no, don't go to broadcasting school. You do not need to get a broadcasting degree. You're a doctor. Talk about what you're entertaining enough. You don't necessarily have to do that. And fortunately for me, I was able to grow my show, become syndicated, and I didn't need to have broadcasting training. Thank you. I hear you. Okay, maybe I will go back and get some training. But you guys are so mean to me, honestly. So not nice. But, so you would need to find out what is it you really want to do, and then what is the best way to do that. Now, if it's you want to be financially secure, okay. Well, I get you. You got to find out what is it that you want. And you also have to be very, very honest. Don't be embarrassed about what your goals are. People feel so guilty that God is listening, and that, oh my gosh, I want to make money. I want to be rich. Listen, if you think it, God hears it. So you be honest. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, God wants honesty. And don't feel guilty saying, look, I want to make money. Well, why is it that you want to make money? Well, I want to make money because if I have to help take care of my kids or my grandkids, or if I have to, or I don't want to be a burden on somebody. I mean, that's pretty admirable. It's okay to want to make money. Don't feel guilty about that. For me, I was not thinking about getting a Lamborghini as a doctor because I knew the type of doctor I was going to be. A family doctor doesn't get paid much. Family doctors and pediatricians are the worst paid doctors of all the doctors. I wasn't going for plastics and neurosurgery. But I wanted to have enough money in case I needed to help support my parents. And I ended up having to do that. And thank God. And I thank God every day. And I believe that's one of the reasons why he was so generous and helped me with my path, because I, went and did good with that. I helped patients, teach, etc. So, but if you're like, gosh, if I make money, I'm going to feel guilty and to have, no. Because if you do, let's say, make money and you donate, you could still do good. Don't feel guilty about that. But you got to be really honest with yourself. What exactly is it that you want? And is it that you really want to be a accountant? If you really love accounting, then yeah, go through the classes, get your CPA. It's not going to be easy, but, it's a very, very difficult major. But, if that's something you really, really want to do. But if you're like, no, I just need a better job. I am tired of working for peanuts and always being laid off. Well, then you need to do your research and you need to look at the type of jobs that have a little bit more stability. Now, things are different these days. They're different in medicine. They're different all over. In medicine, AI is going to be taking over. And a lot of doctors that are doing telemedicine and radiology and things like that, AI is going to put us out of jobs. Not in the next few years, but 20, 30 years down the line. So, for those of you that really like healthcare and want to help people, well, there's always a dearth of those individuals. And I don't think we're as ready to be completely reliant on computers for that. And if you're already in your 50s, well, then, you don't have to worry about what the industry is going to be like 50 years from now. You just need to know what the industry is going to be like, 30 years from now. So you do your research. And, you also probably need to kind of get some advice on what to do with money. I think a lot of us are freaking out. I am, about how to retire when things are this expensive. So also learn not only how to make money, but how to save and how to downsize and what are some smart moves to make. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back at the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of the reasons why I don't watch tennis is I don't want to get whiplash. I think my neck will hurt keeping looking on back and forth, back and forth. Well, for those of you going up and down with the stock market, some of you are experiencing some whiplash, but some good whiplash today. Stock market is soaring. Probably one of the highest gains in a while, because Trump is going to pause some of the, he just announced it. He is going to be pausing the tariffs for 90 days for most of these countries that are already negotiating and working with him. Good. So it worked, except China. China, now it went from 104 to 125% tariffs. As I explained what that means, because some of you are like, well, how do you go above 100%? It's 100%. If something costs $10 and there's a 100% tariff, then that tariff is going to be $10 of that $10 or 20. If it's going to be 125%, then it's going to be $12.50. So then 10 plus $12.50 is $22.50. So the tariff is a cost that China or these other countries have to add on top of something that they are importing and paying for. They sometimes will extend the price to the consumer. But at some point, the consumers are going to be like, I'm not buying China. It's too expensive. So China's going to, they're going to be playing chicken, but the stock market is just going crazy, crazy high. I think NASDAQ is up 1,100 points, Dow Jones about 2,000. And so for those of you who, I told you when the stock market dropped, you might want to buy some of that NVIDIA or that Eli Lilly stock that you couldn't buy early on. So some of us are really, really enjoying the spike. So I one of my friends is like, so do I buy and then sell? I am no financial expert. Do not come to me for financial advice. Let me just see how much NVIDIA has gone up real quickly here. NVIDIA, I think $12, $13 a share. So, here's the thing. You guys, I'm a doctor. I'm an American. I'm a business owner. I do have some success in understanding the psychology and seeing how this is going to be very, very inflated. I think people want a place to invest their money. They don't know where to put their money in. And so when people can get a bargain, a price for a share, which is why these companies will split their shares to make it more accessible so more people could buy a share. That's what happened with NVIDIA. That's what happened with Chipotle recently. Eli Lilly stock is $700-800 a share. The average person can't buy it. There's more for the millionaires. But if they want, people, like you and I that can afford, $100 a share, maybe that's a little bit more palatable. So the psychology behind this, and you guys might know more than I, is if all Trump has to say is up with the tariff or down with the tariff, and the stock market goes crazy, for those people who can be positioned to buy when it's low and sell when it's high, they're going to do fine. And the good thing about Trump is it's really hard to have insider trading, okay? Because when he makes his decisions, I mean, every day it's a new decision. But the thing is people have been accusing him of wanting to do the tariffs no matter what, whether anybody is negotiating or not, that where he wants the external revenue service where we don't have to have income tax, which is really cool, by the way, no income tax. And most of our funding comes from external sources. But on the other end, he wants to permanently erase the large tariffs that these other countries have put on us so we don't look screwed. And if that's working, if these other countries are like, look, give us some time to figure this out, let's, negotiate. I understand Vietnam is charging us 90% plus. So anything for $10 we buy from Vietnam is $19 because of the 90% tariff, an extra $9. We're not charging back 90%. We're doing a lower tariff than that. But, if these other countries like, hold on, let's negotiate, we're going to lower our tariffs. Well, then he's got to win. He's got to win. China's the biggie, though. I'm very nervous because China has our medicine. Many of our medicines come from China. Remember when we had that big blood pressure medicine recall because of N-nitroso, the nitrosamines, like the NDMA and the, I think it was the NEDA. There were a few different dimethyl nitrosodiamine, whatever, but the nitrosamine byproduct was found by the European oversight entity, found that there were impurities with the generic manufacturing of the ARBs, blood pressure medicine class. This was years ago. And I had said at the time, if any of the other manufacturers in Mexico or America who are making these generic medications are using the same process, they might be also making the same byproduct. But this started in a Chinese factory, and that's when a lot of people learned that a lot of our generics are made in China. So if China gets mad at us, or we go into a trade war with China, we have a problem with our medications. And Trump has said from the beginning, we need to do more here. And maybe this is going to be the kick in the pants that we need to make more medications here. I love the fact that generics are cheap. But if you look on the bottle, some of you are getting them from Mexican companies or from Chinese companies. And so they're supposed to be safe. They're in order for us to distribute them in America, they have to have FDA approval or they have to have some oversight. But we're reliant on other countries for our generic drugs. Now, we have some fantastic pharmaceutical companies, but pharmaceutical companies make brand name drugs. Once they lose the patent and it goes generic, well, then, they'll make more brand name drugs. But generics are made by companies that can process them and make them cheaper. And somehow they could do that because they're using labor that's a lot cheaper in other countries. So I just want us to be independent and not reliant, because if we go to war with China, we are screwed, especially from a medicine standpoint. And I don't want that. I love the idea that we, tell these other countries quit screwing us just because we're the biggest and the baddest. It's flattering. I'm flattered that you think we're the biggest and the baddest and the most rich, but stop charging us more than we charge you. That's ridiculous. So this is something that actually bipartisanly, people agree have to be done. They might not have liked how everything is being done so quickly, but remember, Trump only has, 43 months in office? And a lot of what he can do is going to change with the midterms. So, he wants to get, as much done as possible, and he wants everybody to see the results before the next election. So, yeah, he's working pretty quickly. But boy, is the stock market all iffy as it pertains to tariffs. Why? Well, because most of our stocks are of companies that utilize goods from other countries. A lot of what you guys buy come from China. When you go on Amazon, you'll get things and it'll have China. A lot of these are made in China. So a lot of companies that utilize China for either supplies or their manufacturing, and then they sell it in America. Now they're worried they're going to have to charge more. People are worried inflation's going to go up. So the short term is going to be bumpy. The long term is going to be fantastic. But as I've said, people, don't have the same patience as it pertains to tariffs and America independent and America infrastructure as they do with climate change. People are like, oh, we got to do this for our great-great-grandchildren. Well, we need to do this tariff thing for our children and grandchildren. But no. Now we're doing too much too soon. So be consistent, people. So I'm not here to tell you guys what to do with your stocks. My guess is these other countries are going to bite, and they are going to say, look, we have been screwing you over. If you want lower tariffs, we'll do it. We'll do the lower tariffs, just don't raise ours. And if that works, and then that'll be fine. But our economy is really, really dependent on China. But for the stock market to skyrocket like this, despite us still playing chicken with China, and Trump means business. He's not going to flinch. So it's a good sign. It's a good sign. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.